Thank you so much, Rabbi Mark. I want to dedicate this sit to the peoples, to the wisdom of the peoples, to the wisdom of the people of Iran who's protesting tyranny, and the wisdom of the people of Israel who is protesting tyranny, and the wisdom of the people in the United States who is protesting tyranny and violence. Really, really. The wisdom of the people. And we are starting to walk through the book of Shmot, the names. Reclaiming your name is reclaiming your identity. And it's reclaiming your own voice, your own identity, not the assigned identity. And this is what we're seeing right now in the parashot, is the peoples trying to free themselves from tyranny. And so may our practice bring freedom, because external freedom, according to Hasidic thought, starts with inner freedom. And so, as always, I want to honor your presence and your practice. It's a true pleasure, a true zchut, a true merit, and ta'anug to be here with you all. Let's just take 3 mindful breaths before we go into our little study today. I want to invite you to close your eyes and to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And if you feel that there are a lot of emotions or agitation, or that you're very much in the head, feel free to place a hand on your heart and a hand on your belly. To do that again. And let's do one more. For those who need our breath, who need to breathe more deeply, for those whose breath is shortened by anxiety and oppression and fear. Okay, and coming back here, you may want to stay with your eyes closed. You may want to stay with your hand on your heart and your hand on your belly. It can be a very, very healing practice. And so really I invite you to stay like this for the whole session, if it feels good to you. I will in a moment share the screen with the text. You don't have to look at it. You can stay with your eyes closed and just take the words in and really go already in your contemplative mode. There are 2 particular moments in this parasha that move me. Parashat Vayera is precisely speaking of breath, and I realized right before I started saying it that there is this very moving thing to me that the Torah is showing us, is that when Moshe comes to deliver to them the message that they are going to be free, that they're going to be freed, they can't believe him because their breath is narrowed, is constricted. And this is what happens when we are oppressed. And sometimes we're oppressed internally as well. And then there is another lens, another kind of spotlight in this parasha. And it's the anxiety of Moshe, which I always find very, very moving. And so I want to share with you the text. And we'll read. So he says twice the exact same expression. Okay, just first he says it at the end of his sentence, and then he says it at the beginning. Right? Moshe spoke before God, saying, "V'daber Moshe lifnei Hashem le'emor," and he says, "En bnei Israel lo sham'u elai," and even bnei Israel couldn't hear me, couldn't listen to me. Okay, ve'ayech yishameni Paro, how would Pharaoh listen to me? Ve'ani arel sfatayim, for I am a man of uncircumcised, blocked lips. And then later he says again to God, V'omer Moshe lifnei Hashem, again, Hen ani ar'el sfatayim. Indeed, I am a man of blocked lips. Ve'ayech yishema elai paro. And what's interesting in these two verses, I was noticing when I was looking at them one underneath the other, is that in the first one, he's noticing people didn't listen to me. And then he says, my lips are blocked. And so that may be, as we do sometimes, that when something happens in reality, we draw conclusions. And sometimes we blame ourselves. And in the second, he starts with this. And it's almost as in, when we integrate an interpretation of reality, oh, this must be who I am. If people didn't hear me, maybe it's because I can't speak. And then it becomes his identity. And then this is how he starts with God the second time. But remember, my lips are blocked, so he won't listen to me. And it really is this kind of mechanism by which we take upon ourselves an interpretation of reality, we make conclusions, and then it starts determining our future interactions, right? There's something here about self-fulfilling prophecy, about manifesting the continuation of the same problem just by really starting by saying, this is how I am. And it's very interesting also to me because he's speaking to God and saying, well, my lips are blocked, but apparently he has no problem speaking to God, which many people are not capable of doing. Of course, it's something very moving to me because it's the story of someone who's going to become our greatest leader and our most eloquent leader. The last book of the Torah, of the Chumash, is Sefer Dvarim, is considered as Moshe's testament. And the last parashiyot are like poems. And so he became the most eloquent. And for me, this is a very moving journey that we are witnessing as a mirror, perhaps, of our own journeys and our own callings to reclaim our voices that sometimes at the beginning of the journey can feel blocked. And I thought, what a good time to reflect on this as we're still in the beginning of the year, January. Maybe you have your own projects for this year for the civil year that you really want to bring something about your voice into the world, and it feels scary and you feel blocked for now. It's also to be Shvat, the month of Shvat is starting, Rosh Chodesh Shvat is starting this next week, and we're about to welcome Shabbat Mevarchim, the Shabbat before the month of Shvat, and that's the announcement already of a new rebirth, of a new year. And there is something about trees that is, right now I'm looking at trees in the winter, and they're completely bare. They have nothing to show, they have nothing to tell. And it seems like nothing can come out of them. And that's this kind of miracle of spring, that suddenly something that felt dead and blocked is going to burst forth. And that's really Moshe, what happened to Moshe. And so what I wanted to share with you today is an interpretation from the Zohar on these verses. And the Zohar, it's written in Aramaic, Ele razaihu. This is the secret. Moshe kala. Moshe is the voice, is the call. Moshe is the call. The ihu mila, delay. And the slicha, I skipped a line. V'dibur, the ihu mila, delay. And the speech, so you have here kol, which is voice, you have dibur, which is speech, and then you have milah, which is word. And what he's saying to us is basically Moshe is the voice, but this voice has no speech because the milah, begaluta. The word is in exile. And this is something that's been reused later by Hasidic masters like the Sfat Emet, and by the Meorenaim, to say that that's the status of our own voice in Egypt as a place of exile, of galuta dibur, of exile of the speech. And this is what happens also in slavery, and this is what happens also in oppression. The people are deprived of their own voice, right? And so the Zohar is telling us this is why he was blocked, right? And arel sfatayim, it's an expression, orla, is something that covers something. And so very literally, it's the foreskin. And that's why Brit Mila is the removal of the foreskin, and it has a very, very deep mystical sense and significance in the Jewish tradition. And you see, Brit Mila is the covenant of the cutting, and the cutting is the word, right? Because what is a word? If you see a line with letters, only when we make separations between groups of letters and we create space in between can words appear. Does that make sense? Otherwise, it's just a line of letters. So Mila, the word, meaning is born out of cutting, of separating from the chaos of everything is mixed up, so that I can have a clear discourse, so that something can emerge out of me. And Moshe, he yet needs to learn, this is an interpretation that I'm offering, to kind of extract himself from his own confusion, emotional confusion about his own identity, right? Of someone who was a descendant from the Hebrew slaves and raised in Egypt. I mean, we don't talk about this enough, but conflicted identity. Okay. And then he was married with someone from Madian. And then he receives this message and he says, who am I? And I can't speak. You know, sometimes when you've had such a difficult life journey of exile and of being a stranger everywhere, it's very difficult to find your words. You have to kind of put things in order in your head. And that's why journaling is such a healing practice. But at this point, Moshe is not prepared. He's not prepared. And this is why the Zohar says this is why the divine joined Aaron to join forces with him so that Moshe can get some help. And I'm going to stop sharing the text here. And I'll share that something that's really beautiful here is this reminder that I don't need to be ready to start walking. If I have a mission, if I have a calling, even if I'm not ready, even if I'm limping, even if I don't even have the words and I need help, I can still move forward. And I would like really to invite us to do a meditation right now of actually just listening. And what you may hear is the voice of your thoughts. You may hear the voice of the divine talking to you through intuition. You may hear the voice of inspiration. You may hear the voice of your heart that is only waiting for us to kind of stop and pay attention to it, right? But what God is forcing Moshe to do in a way here is to have some self-reflexivity, and then to choose if he's gonna still go ahead and listen to the calling, because even if he's protesting, Moshe is still moving forward. And sometimes I see myself protesting when I'm about to go on retreat or to sit, but I know this is my calling. And the beginning of the calling is to start by listening to the inner voice, and then to learn to share it with the world. And from there comes freedom. From there comes the greatest freedom. So let's sit, my dears. I want to invite you to adjust your posture. You close your eyes if they're not closed already. If you're sitting on a chair above the ground, the 2 feet flat on the floor, legs hips width apart, the hands resting on your thighs. The spine is long. The chin is slightly tilted down. And I want to invite us to sit just like a tree, really taking root in this moment. Grounding ourselves towards the earth, underneath the floor, perhaps even underneath a few floors, all the way down through the walls towards the earth. And the next inhale, long spine. And the next exhale, soft shoulders. And the spine stretching up like a tree from the earth all the way up through the ceiling towards the sky. As my arms rest like branches. And that if I want my call, my voice, to be able to express any libur, any speech in the world, I need to have milim. And in order to have milim, I need to be able to separate from the letters in order to form clusters of letters, which will become mila, the word. And so meditation is just making myself receptive so that clarity can come and offer insight. And so I'm not searching for anything in particular in this meditation. I'm just sitting grounded in the earth like a tree and allowing to emerge whatever emerges. Simply letting clarity emerge at its own pace. And as we're entering the last minute of our meditation today, perhaps time for a personal prayer. If we feel that we have a calling in this world and we still don't have the words, we still find difficulty expressing our unique voice, manifesting our unique name, perhaps we can talk to God about it. And perhaps we can look around for a brother or sister who can help us. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Coming back. I'm getting ready to say Kaddish with Rabbi Mark.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Mira. And friends, let's all together now, let's create some space for those of us who are in mourning or observing at yard side, and see that there are a number of people here who have had recent losses, and we want to support them. So please stay present if you can. Those who are reciting Kaddish are invited to share the name or names of those they're honoring today. You can put that in the chat now or after we recite Kaddish. And again, if you're not reciting Kaddish, please just stay present for a few moments to support those who are. And if you're reciting Kaddish, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit. You can unmute on. Itgadal.
Gadal v'yikadash Miraban, Yonah divrach v'tev yom lefachoteh, Chol v'yimechol chayiv Yisrael, Ba'kala v'zman karev imru amin, Yehi shmei rabban
Midrash Le'olam U'Nei Alamayah.
Barach v'yishtabach, v'yitраman v'yinaseh, Yitatar v'yitaleh v'yitalash v'yitkadosh, Ela mikol v'charta v'shirata, Tushbachata v'nechamata, Ma v'imru, Amen.
Say
Shalom
shalom.
Rabban Shalom,
Say shalom.
Hallelujah, Kol Yisrael, Imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Mrama, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Kol Yisrael, V'Kol Yashrei Tevel, V'Imru, Amen.
Amen. May the universe grant peace to us and to all Israel.
Friends, thank you so much for joining us today. We offer our prayers for comfort to those who are in mourning, and thank everyone for being here. Thank Rachel for holding our tech space today, our Mishkan, as always, beautifully. And everyone is invited to stay on, to continue to sit with the beautiful guidance that Rabbi Mira offered us. You can turn the sound off on your device, or you can join us for conversation about the teaching, or to share reflections on your practice. The chat is open for that purpose. And if you want to ask a question, please write question all in caps, and I'll keep an eye out for your question to try to work it into the chat. And all questions need to go through the chat. Thank you so much. Mira, many teachers of Torah like to point out that the figures and the biblical figures are very human characters. They're not superhuman characters, right? And I don't think I'd ever really thought about this phase of Moshe's development as a manifestation of anxiety. So I wanted to first of all, just want to thank you for that. I think like, wow, that's amazing. Moshe was just, sometimes it's described as just, this sense of being unworthy or questioning, but actually he was anxious. It was he was on a pretty important mission, and he was anxious about being heard. But the thing I'd like to focus on is this relationship I would like to really want to invite you to maybe describe and unpack a little bit this relationship between these two words that are in the text, in the Zohar text anyway, in Jewish tradition, especially Jewish mystical tradition, kol, which represents voice, and dibur, which represents speech. So as I understood the Zohar text that you shared, and I don't want to get too much in the Kabbalistic weeds here, I want to bring this into how do we experience this in practice, but kol is the voice of the divine, which here is associated with Moshe. And he's saying like dibur, speech, which are they're not the same thing. Voice and speech are different things. Something is blocking dibur. Something is, the conditions of exile of galut are blocking dibur and creating some disconnect between voice, kol, and dibur.
Yeah.
So I want to invite you to, and Moshe, so there's, in some ways, that's what it's saying, like Moshe is expressing this anxiety or concern about like, I can't find a way to really deliver the divine message the way it is striving to be understood in some way. Can you say a little bit more about that, and maybe also just like where it fits into the Kabbalistic, in the tree of life, what that represents? What the associations for each of those?
Yeah. We have three, first of all, we're touching something that's very deep at the heart of Judaism. We think of ourselves as a tradition of the book and of the davar, umidvar Hashem Yerushalayim, the Kimitzion Tetzitorah, umidvar Hashem Yerushalayim, this idea that that the world is created by speech. Just this today in the world of coaching and non-duality, there's a very deep understanding and realization that our speech creates our world, right? Now, the problem is when there's a dissociation between my physical ability to speak and my emotional, psychological incapacity to express myself. And that's what the Zohar is highlighting very beautifully, that Moshe has the kol, he had the voice. Yes, he had the voice. He's speaking to God. He has a voice. He has a voice. He's been speaking, but he doesn't have dibur. And there is another passage, I'm not remembering if it's in the Zohar or somewhere else, but that they connect this moment to the Aseret Adibrot, to the 10 utterances, and that this was the moment where something in us, in our identity, was fulfilled, became whole, and then we had fully our own dibur. Now Moshe, he needed to be able to convey a message, and actually he was not capable because he himself wasn't complete. And that also is what a profound teaching for us, that we don't need to be perfect or complete to start the path and to start doing what we need to do. Right? We grow as we go. We grow as we go. And that's why he needed the help. And I think that's also so beautiful, such a beautiful teaching, that we are stronger when we associate ourselves with someone else. That's very important. The couple of Moshe and Aaron here, where God said to him, okay, you can't speak. Well, Aaron will speak for you. You will be my prophet and Aaron will be your prophet. And prophet is the one who speaks for, in terms of, And so, Paul, as you said, the voice, it's become a metaphor for the divine presence, for the expression of the divine in the world, the bat kol. But kol really is the notion of expression. And sometimes, we can have the ability to express ourselves, but we can't on a deeper level. I think that to me is the deepest teaching here, and the fact that true dibur, and that's where I'm taking the Zohar, but meaningful speech is coming from my capacity to put words on my experience and on my intentions. And in order to put words, I need to be able to extract myself from the confusion of emotions, and that's very important. In terms of the tree of life, I would have to check how these come into place. I don't want to say any mistakes. So this is not.
I think my understanding is that kol is associated with Tiferet, which is the heart, which actually was our in yesterday or Monday's daily sit was our focus, and dibur is associated with Malchut, or Shekhinah, the last of the Sefirot, or the most imminent of the Sefirot. And that there's something about this sort of connection or alignment between kol and dibur, that something gets in the, something that needs to that needs to mediate between the two. And where I'm thinking about basically what you're saying about Kol, voice, is associated with Sinai, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And also Sinai is also where Moshe was last week, at the bush. It's the same place. God says, bring them back here. This is the place, right? And collectively, they will have the same experience that he'll have at the bush, that he hears the call, right? But he's trying to like, what is this? He's onto something. I'm thinking about that phrase, that a lot of people use in English, and I know it's in modern Hebrew too. Ein milim, there are no words, right?
Yeah.
That we're used to, we become accustomed to recognizing, oh, this is a situation where I will diminish this if I try to put this into speech, or I will trivialize it, or I won't express it right.
Yeah.
So I will use speech to say I have no speech right now, right?
Yeah.
Which I think that's actually pretty powerful, although it has become a little bit cliched too, right? That to say that, because on the other hand, those kinds of situations call for speech. We need to say something, usually it's something
Exactly.
shocking or outrageous that requires speech. But we start with saying, first of all, I want to say, I'm speechless about this. So I
Exactly.
want to invite you to talk about how we bring this into practice. So for example, for me today, with that association, I thought, oh, I want to rest. Meditation is an opportunity to say, like, I don't have to find words right now. I'm going to be in silence for whatever, 10, 15 minutes right now. I'm
Yeah.
going to be in silence. I'm going back to Sinai right now. I'm going to try to tune into Sinai and listen to the call. And that's all I need to do.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, when I'm running around all day, I lose the signal, and I'm making up the words, and they're not usually the right words,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity, the practice is an opportunity for us to let go of finding the right words so that hopefully the right words will come when we need them.
Yeah. Yes, I really love this metaphor you're offering for meditation practice, which is being at Sinai, because what happens at Sinai is that we receive. At Sinai, we receive, and we receive the dibur. And I think actually we always think that we have to find the words, but before trying to find the words, especially when there are intense emotional crises that leave us speechless, and there's been quite a few over the past couple of years or 3 years in Israel, in America, internationally, right? The first thing is to listen to the emotions. And that, as you said, is going back to Sinai. Let me just listen. Let me just listen. And then trying to kind of just like let the words emerge. Let the word emerge. I can share, to be very concrete, like a personal experience when the war started in Israel. It was very chaotic. Now we have some distance with it, but when it started, when I was 50 kilometers away from Gaza, everything was possible. We were looking around in the house and we're like, if someone wants to break into and kill us, he can. Like, we were it was completely chaotic. There were people trying to fly out of the country, people flying into fight. Like, it was completely chaotic. People didn't know what to do. It's the beginning of war. And I started writing. And I wrote like a war diary, and it was published in a French journal, and then they made a podcast out of it. And many people wrote to me to say, oh, thank you. You were able to put words on things I was just not capable of doing. Some of my friends got sick. And I was saying, one of my friends got cancer. And he told me, I know I got it because of that. And I said to him, I think I didn't get sick because I wrote. And what I can share about the process of writing to me is I am trying not to disturb the words. I'm just making myself receptive and available so that the words can come out. And I'm not trying to do something beautiful. I'm not trying to do something clever, especially when I write things like this. It's just like, just name things, just put the words. In a way, just like Moshe is just expressing his kind of raw emotions to God, But that starts by the ability to listen. I think any writer and any speaker has to be first a listener of God and listener to themselves. And if there is not this phase, there's something there that is detached from the source.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is actually quite amazing. But it also speaks to how dibur, speech, recognizing that there isn't any such thing as getting it perfectly, right? Where as human beings, we can't do that, but not, so at the same time to be quiet enough to listen to Cole, listen for the voice, and at the same time to connect it with speech, knowing that, and be able to have tshuva, to be able to come back to intention over and over again, to say like, oh, that wasn't really the right word. Well, I could say that differently, whatever it is. We shouldn't refrain from speaking. So actually, Ricky's asking a question in the chat. I don't know if you have something on this or not. But in Psalm 19, there's a phrase, a verse, Ein Omer ve'ein Devarim. I don't remember the context in the Psalm of that pasuk, that verse. I don't know if you do.
No,
But
I would
do
need
you?
to see context.
Yeah, we'll have to look at the
I'm not
context.
I'm not even seeing the question at all. Where? Okay.
It's from Ricky.
And what?
Ein Omer ve'ein Devarim.
Okay, I would need to see the context.
Yeah, and I'm not sure the context.
But it's, you see, it's not it's not something unique. It's a theme in the Torah. It comes many times, and this passage, in a way, from the impossibility of speaking to the ability of speaking. This is redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And this is coming out of galut, because true galut, true enslavement, is when we lose our words. Because when we lose our words, we lose our capacity to express ourselves in the world.
Right.
That's what the Hasidic masters call the true exile.
Yeah, there's so much, there's so much here now that bringing, the Zohar referring and the Torah itself says, bringing Aaron into the process to say, this is a team sport, right? We have to do it collectively. No one person is going to have the dibur perfectly, and that he needs assistance. And then later Moshe, of course, spoiler alert, welcomes more assistance, right?
Yeah.
So they let everyone be prophets, right? He's not looking to have a monopoly or feel like he's the only one who has to have the right words. So this really, it's just a very, very timely and important teaching, Mira. Thank you. I think really does help frame our practice as helping us remember to build that pause, to breathe and to listen and attune ourselves as an essential part of finding the right words, and also the necessity of finding words. Where you started by dedicating the practice to the people of Iran who are speaking at unbelievable risk and great courage, and those who are opposing authoritarianism and tyranny and the pharaohs of our time, also at great risk. And we all need to do that. We all need to find our voice, but we need to find our voice in the right way. And it really makes a very clear connection between our practice and the sacred action that's called for in times like these. So as always, thank you.
I'm just seeing beautiful questions before and after, and I'm sorry that we didn't get to. Feel free to write to us, either of us. The way to silence is to stop. That's it. It's to pause. Silence is already here, but it's about
we do it every day. All right. We look forward to practicing tomorrow with Yael Shai and with Allison Cohen on Friday to sit together into Shabbat. So Nasiya Tova, safe travels, Mira, and we'll see you soon. And we hope to see everybody here tomorrow to practice with Yael Shai.